Hello students! In our previous video, we learned about why we should manage our natural resources. In today's video, let us learn about the importance and need to conserve these resources, specifically forest and wildlife resources. We know that forests are biodiversity hotspots, that is, regions which are known for their high species richness and endemism. Well, endemism is a condition when some species of animals get restricted to specific geographical area. They cannot survive outside that particular area. For example, Asiatic lion, who are endemic to Gir forests only. We know that forests are biodiversity hotspots. Wait for a second. What do you mean by it? Bio represents living beings, and diversity means a variety of these living beings. While hotspots represent a specific marked area full of this important biological diversity that is under constant threat. Yes, students. Thus, a biodiversity hotspot is a biogeographic region with significant levels of biodiversity that is threatened by constant human interference or human habitation. But remember, not all forests are hotspots. Only the forests in which species are under constant threat or some species are on the verge of extinction due to climate change or habitat loss are considered as hotspots. Forests not only sustain life on the planet but also provide clean air and shelter. Forests provide many resources such as food, medicine, fabric, and raw materials. These products are called forest produce. To name a few, timber, non-timber, and minerals, etc. Timber or wood-based products include wood, sal, or plywood. Non-timber products include all biological materials other than wood-based products like kendu leaves, bamboo, sandalwood, sal seed, honey, medicinal plants, rubber, etc. Mineral-based products include peat, surface oil, rock, and minerals. Do you know, students? Forest still covers about 30% of world's land area, but they are disappearing at an alarming rate. Thus, these forests are under threat due to the increased human population and their increased demand. What threats are we talking about? Yes, threats like deforestation, grazing, urbanization, and industrialization. But why are we encroaching on animals' territories? Why are forests under threat from us? The simple answer to this question is the increased human needs. Due to human activities, forest cover is declining at a much faster rate, and this leads to loss of biodiversity. You have already studied in your lower standards how different life forms are interdependent on each other. The food chain and the food web maintain a very delicate balance. Even if one species is not there at one level, it gets disturbed and creates an ecological imbalance. And this leads to loss of biodiversity. A loss of biodiversity in forest may lead to loss of ecological stability, and this may lead to the loss of forest and forest produce. So we need to conserve wildlife and forest too. But how do we do that? Before knowing how to conserve them, we need to know who is associated with these forests. Who do you believe they are? Yes, you are right. They are the stakeholders of forests and wildlife. So let's look at them. A person or a group having an interest or a concern in something is called a stakeholder of that thing. So, who all are related to forests? Firstly, the people who live around or in the forest areas. They depend upon the forest resources for sustenance, like food, living space, clothing, and all other basic requirements. Secondly, the forest department or the government, which owns the forest land. Surely, the people who are living there do not own the whole forest, they have only the part of it. So, the government or the forest department owns the entire land. Third are the industrialists who use these forest products for various industrial purposes and their profits. And where do they get these lands and permissions from? Yes, correct, by renting it out or buying it from the people who own it. And lastly, there are the enthusiasts for the conservation of wildlife and nature. And they are the last stakeholders of forest. They may be any person or NGO or any other institutions. Let us take a look at what each of these groups needs and gets out of the forests. First, let us look at the local people. The local people need large quantities of firewood, small timber and bamboo, which are used to make the slats for huts, baskets for collecting and storing food materials, or implements for agriculture, fishing, and hunting. In addition to all these, they also gather fruits, nuts, and medicines from the forests, while their cattle also graze in forest areas or feed on other fodder collected from the forests. Students, do you know that before the beginning of British rule in India, forest dwellers were free to utilize the resources from forest as they wished? These people had developed practices to ensure that the resources were used in a sustainable manner and never exploited. But things changed when the British rulers took control of the forests in India. After the British took control of the forest, they restricted the access of forest dwellers to the forest resources, and they exploited forest and their resources ruthlessly for their own profits. The local people were then forced to depend on much smaller areas, and the forest resources started to become overexploited to some extent and started exhausting. So, who do you think is next on our list? See our next video.